Oh boy, I'm not gonna lie, that was tough to watch. Pep was pissed. Chelsea lose 1-0 to Man City. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. SCN! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P. And you already know this is another Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Man City. But before I get into all that, I gotta let you guys know we do have a brand new sponsor. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link is in the description. Okay, so Chelsea played host to Man City in what was a rematch in the Champions League final and unfortunately emerged 1-0 losers. Goal scorers Gabriel Jesus. In this match review, we're going to be comparing and contrasting Chelsea's attack in the Champions League final versus that of yesterday's. We're also going to get into the midfield and focus on Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but there really is only one place to start, and that is City's press versus Chelsea's 5-3-2 setup. Now guys, I'm not going to rant and rave or moan about what happened yesterday. We basically faced a really good team who were motivated and played aggressively right from minute 1 to about minute 75 and pressed us right off the pitch. Now for me, City's press played like a 2-1-3-4 with Diaz and Laporte looking after Werner and Lukaku. Then you had Rodri in that sort of like free role, just cleaning up everything and just destroyer. Thought he had a fantastic game. And then you had Cancelo, Bernardo Silva, and Walker just in behind the likes of Foden, Grealish, De Bruyne, and Jesus. Now the reason why I found this to be so effective was because that front line of Foden, De Bruyne, Grealish, and Jesus basically put so much pressure on our back three that it forced our wingbacks to come back and make it a back five because we needed to have that numerical advantage to break the press. But the problem was once we had that back five and we tried to work it into the midfield, they had Cancelo, Bernardo Silva, and of course Walker really tight to our midfielders, the likes of Kovacic, Jorginho, and Conte. And then if that wasn't enough, they also had Rodri in that free role, just coming to just basically destroy everywhere. The aggressive nature of that press made it very difficult for Chelsea to string together 3 or 4 passes. And that's basically what they needed to do as well. In order to break a really aggressive press, you have to move the ball quickly and basically string together 4, 5, 6 passes in order to find the soft spot in the press. And unfortunately for Chelsea, we just could not string together 3 or 4 passes to find the soft spot. So ideally what Chelsea were looking to do is play a 3-5-2 to get the wingbacks forward to help us build the attack and also advance the ball forward. But unfortunately, because that press was so aggressive, we were pinned back and we didn't have the width to get the ball out and into the midfield and then again up towards the Lukakus and Werners. But because we were put under so much pressure, the passes infield to the likes of Kovacic, Jorginho, and Conte were just slightly off. So like that pass is supposed to be right in the socket so they can move it again quickly was maybe a yard off or is like in behind a little bit. And those little details make a huge difference when you're being pressed aggressively like City were doing. It actually just starts a chain reaction, right? Because once you move the ball infield now to Conte, and the pass is not in the socket for him, he's now hurried and he has to pass it real quickly, and as a result his passing accuracy is a little bit off. And then the result is we either just end up hoofing it long or putting it out of bounds because we can't deal with the pressure, and then it's coming right back at us again, wave after wave after wave. And that's exactly why Chelsea couldn't get out. Number one, we didn't have the width to make the pitch bigger, and in that respect you want to, because you want those short passes in and around the midfield in order to break it. We didn't have that because our wingbacks were pushed back so far. And then we relied on our midfielders to basically, work it fast. But because they weren't getting the balls in very accurately and they weren't moving it fast enough up the field, we're under an immense amount of pressure and we couldn't find a release. In a nutshell, Chelsea just haven't really worked out how to transition in a 5-3-2. We definitely know how to do it in a 3-4-3. It's very easy. One of the center backs, right center back, for instance, we go right center back to right wing back, infield to somebody like Conte, and then we look for one of the 10s. And that's a very compact system. For whatever reason, when we play a 5-3-2, which is obviously supposed to play like a 3-5-2, we don't know where that next pass is going through. We can go from, right center back to right wing back, right full back, and then come infield to Conte, but where is the next release? You know what I mean? So like when I was saying earlier, I think that we need to string together 4 or 5 passes in order to find the soft spots in the press. because we're playing that 5-3-2, we haven't really worked out the orchestration of where the next pass is supposed to go to break down the next sequence of the press. So unfortunately, that's a work in progress. It's early in the season, and I don't think that many teams will have the motivation and endeavor that City enjoyed or demonstrated in that game. So there is things to work on, but at the same time, I don't think that we're going to be encountering that level of press, that precision, that aggressiveness, for the entire season. So there's still some things that we can work on there. And obviously, one of the key pieces to this whole thing that I haven't even really touched on yet is Mason Mount, because he's so good at transitioning and he's so good at being not just the number 8, but he's also good at being that, auxiliary number 10. So that little link between the midfielders and the forwards, and also being a defensively solid individual, was lacking today. And, he'll be back, so I don't have to worry about that too much. Okay, so moving on to the midfield, we didn't really have the best of games from the likes of Conte, Jorginho, and Kovacic, and, it proved to be telling and decisive, because when we worked it into them, they weren't really strong enough to hold up the ball. Their passing accuracy was a little off because they were hurried the whole time. And it just seemed like we needed somebody that had the stability and physicality to hold the ball, accurately decide where the next pass is supposed to go, and then release it. And that only really changed when Ruben Loftus-Cheek came into the game. And, hats off to him. I remember saying earlier, lots of people were saying online that, he played well against Villa, but it was Villa's C team. And, when he plays against, will he be trusted to play against big opponents? Well, here's your proof right now, comes into a game 1-0 against City at home at the 70-minute mark or something like that, in and around there, and was highly effective. Not only is he, holding up the ball, showing his strength and stature, but he's also dribbling, which is something that was sorely missed in this game. Just somebody in the midfield that can just dribble past one or two players and, use it to break the press, ultimately. Granted, I will say this, I do feel like City did lay off a little bit come the second half once they scored. They weren't pressing as aggressively, and there was a lot more space for somebody like Ruben Loftus-Cheek to dribble and run into. But at the same time, his ability to use his physicality and use his technique and whatnot to get into these areas was on full display. And, here's your proof. For those that think that he can't play in a Tuchel system, there's your proof right now. He played against City, and, he's building confidence and also the trust of the manager. Like I said, I was ranting online for forever that, I believe that at this point in time, Ruben Loftus-Cheek deserves more minutes than Saul Niguez, just because he has the intensity. He's playing the position at really effectively. And not that I'm saying that, Saul Niguez should not get any time, but if you're looking for somebody right now in the pecking order that's ready to play and deserves minutes, it has to go to Ruben at this point in time. I'm not writing off Saul Niguez by no means, but I'm just saying you have to play who is most in form, and right now that looks like Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And long may it continue, because when we lose somebody like Mason Mount, if we do, I really do believe that if we try to play that system again, that 5-3-2, 3-5-2, I really do believe that somebody like Ruben Loftus-Cheek is the missing link sometimes. He's the guy that can dribble past the opponents, use his strength to ward off, some of the pressing, ward off some of the aggressivity, and then also pick a pass, also score a goal. He gets into the box and also looks to, advance the ball forward. So that's not exactly what we get from Mason Mount, but at the same time, it's exactly what this game needed, and we just didn't get. So for me, I think that our pecking order as far as midfielders go right now, it's obviously Conte, Jorginho, Kovacic. And if you're looking for that fourth midfielder, somebody that can fill in minutes right now, at this moment in time, without doubt, it's Ruben Loftus-Cheek for me. This also marked the first time we saw Chelsea play with two strikers up top in the likes of Werner and Lukaku. And, mixed results. I really do think that Werner actually played pretty well. He got out into the flanks a few times and, utilized his pace to good effect. But, the partnership wasn't really there, mainly because we just didn't have enough support for either of them. Whenever we were to advance the ball to either of them, they just seemed so isolated. There was nothing coming. And again, that goes back to, just the fact that our wingbacks were really just hemmed in and really far. So whenever we tried to go long to build attack from there, it basically broke down because we didn't have the support. And I think Thomas Tuchel actually touched on that in his post-match as well, where he said, Lukaku had an ineffective game, but mainly because we weren't able to, utilize him as a hold-up man, somebody that can, start the attack for us. because we were so far back. We didn't have anyone coming forward to help, build the attack or take the second ball. A lot of the times when we knocked it down, the likes of Raji was there just there to clean it up, or, Bernardo Silva, whoever it may be. We did not win the second ball. So, again, it just came right back to us again. So, there's a work in progress there. I think that like the two striker system needs a link. And for me, I was under the impression that somebody like Havertz should have been starting that game because of the industry that was needed off of the ball to, help build attacks in the midfield, and then also, use that little bit of like, ingenuity to orchestrate something in the attack. And we just didn't have that. We kind of like had two strikers that were looking to be pretty central in the likes, especially with Lukaku. I felt like Lukaku was really central and didn't really try and shift the defense too much. He was very much stationary, and it made it very easy for the likes of Laporte and the Diaz to just snuff out the attacks from there. So, when you contrast what we did in the Champions League final to what we saw yesterday, you'll see a stark difference. Obviously, we played like a more fluid front three with the likes of Mount, Werner, and Havertz, and it worked effectively because those three were interchangeable. They can move them around the pitch, and it also forced the defense to always be aware of where these guys were. Whereas with Lukaku, we haven't really quite figured out how to use him effectively as a striker, an out-and-out number 9, because he's always going to be central for us. But at the same time, if we're not getting the width and we're not getting the thrust from the midfield, then he becomes very stationary, easy to mark out of the game. And we saw that yesterday. In the Champions League final, like we had guys pulling them into the half spaces a lot of the times, the likes of Mount, Werner, and Havertz, who was obviously the goal scorer. We were pulling them out of position a lot of the time, and we found gaps of space in behind as well because we were able to hold the ball in the midfield in those like half spaces between the defense and the non-existent holding midfielder role that City played in the Champions League final. Yesterday was different though. We didn't have that fluidity in the attack. We didn't have that movement. And because we were so static, it made it very easy for them to defend, made it very easy for them to like win the ball and just ram it right back down to our throats again. So, going forward, I'd like to see a little bit more fluidity. As much as I thought that it was effective to see the likes of Werner and Lukaku attacking together, I think still we missed that link. And it only really changed when we brought on the likes of Havertz and played him with Lukaku and Werner, because we had that ability to have somebody else that can play in those half spaces and engage the defense a little bit more. And of course, Ruben Loftus-Cheek came in and also had a good effect in that perspective of the game as well. But having said that, I should also say this. I do commend Thomas Tuchel for playing that system, the 3-5-2, that played more like a 5-3-2. Just because he understood where the battle was supposed to be won, in the midfield. And had we played a 2 in there, I really think that we would have been overrun, and it probably would have led to more goals. Let's be honest, when we did switch that system in the second half, the game became a lot more stretched, but a lot of City's best opportunities came when we played that system, and it was a little bit more, obviously they didn't score, but they had some gilt-edged chances that were, that probably on another day would have probably went in. So I understood why Tuchel played the 5-3-2, mainly because, the likes of Conte and Jorginho weren't at full fitness. And if we were going to play with 2, we probably would have been a lot more exposed in the midfield than we were. For the most part, I thought we defended really well, but we just could not, use our strength in defense to transition it to attack. But, the shape changed a lot. It made the game a little bit more open and free, but at the same time, it left us exposed at the same time. So I think that, it's pick your poison really. You play the 3-5-2 and you stay a little bit more solid, and, you concede less opportunities, but at the same time, you can't get much going forward. And if you play the 3-4-3, it's a little bit more open, and you leave yourself wide open for gaps and whatnot, for counters and whatnot, but you might have a little bit more, endeavor going forward, a little bit more, ingenuity and like ideas going forward. But unfortunately, we just couldn't find that goal. We had the 1 and 2 half chances where, we were almost in behind them, and then a wayward pass kind of like curtailed any attempt that we had to, get into the 18 and like, really test the keeper. There's a couple opportunities where you thought, Kovacic is on the ball and was trying to play it in behind the defense, and we got really close. But I think that a lot of that just came down to the fact that we were so hurried the whole game that even when we had time on the ball, the instincts just led us to rush our passes, and we just couldn't connect there, even though we had time and space. Just because the whole game we were under so much pressure, the only time that we were able to release it, the same sort of idea was just rushed all the time. So unfortunately, we just weren't at it today, and Chelsea will come again. But we live to see another day. We have a lot of things to work on, whether it be with the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2, just how we build attacks from there. But it's a long season, and I expect Tuchel to work it out. And when we get the right personnel on the pitch, we'll see marked difference as well. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea, unfortunately, lose 1-0 at home to Man City. I mean, if you look at it from perspective where it's a battle versus a war, they won the battle, we won the war. We got the cup, right? So as much as I wanted this win, I thought that would have really put a marker down for the season, where Chelsea, opened a 6-point gap on City this early. With a lot of our tough games out of the way for the first half at least. We've already played Liverpool. We've already played, the likes of Villa, who look pretty decent this year. We played Tottenham. We played Arsenal. And, of those teams, a lot of them are, considered to be top teams that, will challenge at some level. So, we got them a lot of them out of the way, and we're still looking pretty good. 13 points out of 18 out of the first 6 cannot be looked at, or frowned upon when you consider the strength of the opponents that we played. So, a lot to work on still going forward, and we have to take this next stretch of games, this next 6 games where the schedule seems to lighten up a bit for us, and take a real advantage of that, and put points on the board. I'd like to see Chelsea get 15 of 18 points from the next games that we play, and hopefully they can do that. But what's next? We got Juve in the Champions League. This is a crucial match. We're going to Turin, and Chelsea have to come away with 3 points in this match. There's no questions about it. This is a very important match. We did walk away with 1-0 winners in the first leg, but we weren't really all that convincing. And obviously Juve went away and won 3-0 versus Malmo, so they're top of the group right now. So we have to come out and assert our dominance over Juve, and if we do so, I think that we'll be in a good position within the group, because our next 2 games after that are Malmo home and away. So it's vital that we take this game and by the scruff of the neck and win this game, because the potential of losing it could put us under a lot of pressure. But yeah, let's hope that we can see the likes of the return of Conte to form, the return of Jorginho to form, and get Lukaku back firing for us again. It's vital that we have him firing for us. It's vital that we have a guy like Mason Mount, linking our attack and defense. It's vital that we get the guy likes of Kai Havertz going. He really has to start asserting himself in the offensive end for us. We need him. And we've been living and dying by the strength of our defense, and it's been incredible. Let's see the likes of Thiago Silva, Christensen, Rudiger, Azpilicueta, Mendy in goal. What can you say about this guy? He's been a freaking man-mountain in goal for us, and we need that to continue in order for us to push on and really challenge for this title this season. But you already know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels. Peace!